4500 out for Foxtrot. Yes, sir, we have Adams on site.
Sky, Gunner for Foxtrot, enter left base, runway 18, contact the tower, 118.7, good day.
Alright, enter left base, runway 18 at tower 18.7. Have a good day, Niner for Foxtrot. Adams Tower, good morning. Skog 519 for Foxtrot on a 12-mile left base, runway 18.
194 Foxtrot, Adams Tower, runway 18, clear to land.
Alright, clear to land, runway 18, Niner for Foxtrot.
Little Rock approach AC 4124 is 15 for 10, Sierra.
Oh, 15
AC 4124, Little Rock approach, expect runway 4 left, descend at pilot's discretion, maintain 6,000.
Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another video on Green Brothers Flying. In this video, we recap some of the biggest aviation news stories from the month of June. Before we get into this video, let's give out some social media shoutouts. Green Brothers Flying is on every social media. We are on Facebook at Green Brothers Flying, on Insta Green Brothers Flying, on Twitter at Flying_Green, and on Discord. Our links will be in the description below. Green Brothers Flying is still selling t-shirts. They are $20. If you want a shout out, sub to the channel and be an active user in Discord. Now, let's get into the news. This first article is from simplyflying.com talking about Southwest and their Boeing 737 MAX. Southwest Airlines CEO Gary Kelly expects that the 737 MAX will return to service by the fourth quarter. The airline has over 240 MAX aircraft on order with options for over 120 more. At the end of March, the airline had placed 93 Boeing 737 next-generation aircraft into long-term storage due to a significant decline in demand. As traffic returns, these aircraft can re-enter passenger service. Boeing and Southwest have already worked out compensation agreements for currently grounded Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. Southwest has received a total of $300 million from Boeing in the first 3 months of 2020. With an average age of 16 years, expect some of the older 737-700s to exit the fleet in favor of the newer, more efficient MAX jets. This next article is from thepointsguide.com, and it's saying that the American Airlines to end non-stop Oakland service. American Airlines ended service to Oakland, California on June 3rd, becoming the first U.S. carrier to say it will permanently exit a city because of the coronavirus pandemic. The One World Alliance carrier's last flight from Oakland, American 2964, is scheduled to depart from Phoenix at 12:41 p.m. local time on Wednesday, according to American's website. It will be operated by CRJ 700. This next article is long and it's from simplyflying.com, and it says United to boost international schedule. United Airlines is significantly stepping up its international flying. In addition to increasing transatlantic services, United Airlines is reopening schedules to destinations across the Caribbean and Latin America. Services to Tokyo, Seoul, Hong Kong, and Singapore are also resuming. United Airlines says that the schedules will be loaded onto its websites in the coming days. While capacity is currently down 90% of last year, United Airlines expects this to scale back up to 70% by July. United's usually busy Newark hub, the airline has maintained daily flights to Amsterdam, London, Frankfurt, Tel Aviv, and thrice weekly service to Paris. From July, United Airlines will start flying 4 times a week to Dublin and daily to Delhi, subject to approval of Montego Bay, Nassau, Punta Cana, Santiago, Santo Domingo. Existing flights to Tokyo Narita from Newark will increase to daily. Out of the Washington Dulles hub, United Airlines also has been maintaining daily service to Frankfurt. 4 more cities will be added to United's Washington departure board for July. Daily services to Brussels, Zurich, and London will resume. In addition, there will be thrice weekly service to Munich. United Airlines port in Houston currently, the airline is flying out of Houston to Sao Paulo, San Jose, León, Mexico, Cancun, Guadalajara, Monterrey, Puerto Vallarta, San Jose de Cabo, St. Thomas, and San Juan. The frequency of some of these services is increasing. Flights between Houston and Manguana and Houston and San Juan are ramping up to daily. Services to San Jose, Cancun will be going to twice daily. There will be several resuming services from Houston beginning in July. These daily services to Ecuador, San Luis Potosi, Punta Cana, and Montego Bay. Twice daily services will resume between Houston and Nassau, Guatemala, San Pedro Sula, San Salvador, and Panama City. Both Belize City and Liberia will see services 5 times a week from Houston. Buenos Aires and Lima will both get thrice weekly United Airlines service. Over in the Midwest, United's daily service to London from Chicago will be retained. From July, there will be a second international service from United's home base with a 5 times weekly service across to Tokyo, Haneda. Further west still, services are stepping up out of United's San Francisco hub. The airline has been running daily services across to both Tokyo, Narita, and Sydney. These will continue. United service to Frankfurt out of SFO is also ramping up to daily. There will be several resuming flights out of San Francisco. Services to Hong Kong and Singapore will restart, running 5 times a week. Plus, Delhi, subject to approval, Seoul, and Tel Aviv will see thrice weekly flights a week out of SFO. This next article is from simplyflying.com. Delta pilot surplus avoiding furloughs. Delta Airlines and its pilots' unions are still trying to avoid furloughing over 2,300 pilots. This comes out after the results of a Sunday bid saw the airline with a surplus of pilots even after shifting around 7,000 of them across bases and aircraft types. Reuters reports that Delta and its pilots' union are working to avoid furloughing 2,327 unassigned pilots. The airline had its pilots bid for positions across its U.S. bases on a variety of different aircraft types. 7,000 pilot positions were available. Previously, that number had been anticipated to be high as 2,500 pilots. Most industry experts and organizations believe that the airlines will need at least 3 or 4 years to see the same number of passengers as they did in 2019. This puts a damper on expansion plans that would have been seen airlines adding hundreds of new planes and thus new jobs. Instead, airlines are retiring older jets. Delta is doing away with their Boeing 777s and the MD family of aircraft, which are making their final flights on June 2nd. However, the airline will still be using the A350 and A321neos to replace some of that lost capacity. This next article is from simplyflying.com, talking about Delta's final MD-80 and 90 flight. Last September saw American Airlines operate its final MD-80 flight. However, the current crisis has led to the accelerated retirements of some aircraft types. Last month, it was the turn of Air France's Airbus A380s. Today, it is the turn of Delta's MD-80 and MD-90 aircraft. Delta 88 is expected to be operated by November 900 Delta Echo, a 28-year-old MD-88 that was delivered to Delta Airlines as new in March 1992. The flight is scheduled to depart from Washington IAD at 8:15 local time. Following a short trip, it will land in Atlanta ATL at 10 o'clock local time. Delta 90 is scheduled to operate by November 9 to 5 Delta November. This MD-90 is slightly younger at 21 years old. It was delivered to China Eastern Airlines in 1998 before transferring to Delta just under 10 years ago in July 2010. Delta 90 will depart from Houston IAH at 6 in the morning. It is then scheduled to arrive in Atlanta at 8:58. Following their final flights, both 900 Delta Echo and 925 Delta November will fly to Blytheville in Arkansas. Having served Delta for over 3 decades, the MD fleet has certainly racked up some impressive stats at the time. Over the past 33 years, Delta has operated a total of 128 MD-88 and 65 MD-90 aircraft. 900 of the U.S. carrier's 3,000 daily flights were operated by that type. The MD aircraft has operated over 600 different routes in America with the Delta livery, carrying over 750 million passengers over the past 33 years. Of course, to run so many flights requires a lot of pilot pools. Over 9,000 Delta pilots have been qualified to fly the MD-80 and the MD-90 aircraft. This next article is from simplyflying.com, and its first U.S. Airbus A220 takes flight. The first U.S.-made Airbus A220 has completed its maiden flight. Early in the morning in Alabama, on June 2nd, the A220-300 lifted off from Mobile, where Airbus has a production facility. After about 3 hours in the air, the aircraft returned to the ground. The aircraft is painted in Delta Airlines livery and will be the first A220-300 for the Atlanta-based airline. The A220 took off from Mobile Downtown Airport, BFM, and headed west over the Gulf of Mexico. The aircraft did not stray far from the U.S. coast during the 3-hour flight. The second U.S.-made Airbus A220 is destined for JetBlue. That aircraft will arrive in December of this year. Back in 2017, Airbus had announced plans to manufacture the A220 in Mobile, Alabama. There, Airbus has a production facility where the manufacturer also produces Airbus A320 aircraft. Delta is a big Airbus A321 customer. The airline has received some of its newest Airbus A321s from the Alabama facility. The news about Delta's first Airbus A220-300 flight comes just hours after Delta flew its final MD-80 and MD-90 aircraft. The A220-300 is a part of Delta's fleet renewal plan and has become a favorite for the airline and its customers. During the downturn, the A220 has kept on flying. The MD-88 sat 149 passengers, while the MD-90s had a maximum capacity of 158. While the A220 will be replacing the MD aircraft on some routes, it will represent a small capacity decrease. This next article is from simplyflying.com, and FedEx MD-11 overran the runway in Mumbai. On June 3rd, a FedEx MD-11 cargo plane overshot the runway in bad weather at Mumbai International Airport. A cyclonic storm hit the area. The airport experienced high winds and heavy rain. The aircraft came to a stop 9 meters beyond the end of the runway. FedEx McDonnell Douglas MD-11 aircraft was involved in a runway incursion today at Mumbai's International Airport. The 29-year-old aircraft was registration number November 583 Foxtrot Echo was operating as flight FedEx 5033 from Bangalore to Mumbai. The flight landed on runway 14 at 12:14 local time 0644 Zulu and plumes of spray as the airport was battered by heavy rain and high winds caused by a cyclone. The tri-engine plane overshot the end of the runway by around 9 meters 30 feet and turned sharply to the left before coming to a stop. FedEx operates a fleet of 450 aircraft, including 58 MD-11s, which has an average age of 26.5 years. 53 MD-11s are currently in service, as reported by plane spotters on May 3rd. Wednesday's runway incursion is not the first incident involving FedEx MD-11 aircraft this year. In April, an MD-11 aircraft with registration November 619 Foxtrot Echo was reported as losing its right nose wheel during a routine flight from San Antonio, Texas to Memphis, Tennessee. The flight landed safely with one front wheel, but the FAA ruled that the incident is an aviation accident. On May 22nd, a FedEx MD-11 and a Hong Kong Airlines A330 lost separation at Hong Kong International Airport. The A330 was lined up for takeoff and had started rolling down the runway while the MD-11 was on final approach to the same runway. The two aircraft came in within 800 feet vertical separation from each other. This next article is simplyflying.com and talking about American system-wide increase. In July, the airline will be operating over 40% of its capacity compared to the same time in 2019. This includes 55% of American's domestic schedule and almost 20% of the international schedule, showing signs of a market in rebound. In July and August, American Airlines plans to fly about 55% of its domestic schedules compared to the same time last year. July's schedule will see the small service reductions in the airline's network since March from Dallas and Charlotte. American is increasing frequencies to significant cities in Florida, Gulf Coast cities, and mountain destinations in the United States. During this time, American will offer more seats to Florida than any other airline. On June 4th, American brought the following 8 international routes back: Dallas-Fort Worth to Amsterdam, Dallas to Charles de Gaulle, Dallas to Frankfurt, Miami to St. John's, Antigua and Barbados, Chicago O'Hare to London Heathrow, New York John F. Kennedy to London Heathrow, Miami to Ecuador, Miami to Quito. In July, the airline will be operating the following long-haul international routes: Dallas to Amsterdam, Dallas to Charles de Gaulle Paris, Dallas to Dublin, Dallas to Frankfurt, Dallas to Heathrow, Dallas to Madrid, Dallas to Hong Kong, Dallas to Tokyo, Haneda and Narita, Dallas to Seoul, JFK to Heathrow, O'Hare to Heathrow, Miami to London, and LAX to Haneda, Tokyo. This next article is from simplyflying.com, talking about Delta Airlines bringing out a Boeing 737 from storage in Victorville. Delta Airlines Boeing 737 is due to leave storage at Victorville in California on June 6th. It has already passed. It is back in service probably at this time. It will be the first release of the over 600 aircraft that Delta has stored during the coronavirus pandemic. Delta Airlines' Boeing 737-900 aircraft is scheduled to fly from storage at the Southern California Logistics Airport at Victorville to Seattle during the afternoon of Saturday, June 6th. Registration November 805 Delta November will rejoin Delta's 737 fleet. This forms the main part of the airline's narrow-body fleet, along with the Airbus A320 and the 321. It is not clear which route it is destined for, but with more routes restarting and more flights being added, there is plenty of choice. Simply Flying reported just over 2 weeks ago Delta was planning to add more flights to its schedules. This is not necessarily due to increased demand, but to ensure that all aircraft can operate at below 60% capacity. In a memo released in March, CEO Ed Bastian confirmed that as part of the response to COVID-19 and slowdown in aviation, it would park over 600 aircraft. That is around half of their fleet. Aircraft have been stored not just at a storage facility in Victorville, but also at airports like Birmingham, Alabama, and Becerra, Arizona, as well as several other airports. Delta has confirmed it is retiring all of its MD-88 and MD-90 aircraft fleet, then the planned end of the year retirement. Its Boeing 767 aircraft may well suffer a similar early retirement. This next article is from the Points Guy, talking about Dallas-Fort Worth Airport being the country's busiest airport in May. Dallas-Fort Worth DFW, America's fortress hub in Texas, saw the most commercial service by any other airport in the nation in May. That title has been long held by either Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport, ATL, or Chicago O'Hare, ORD, but not in May. DFW saw 12,132 departures in May, according to data from travel analyst company OAG, cited by the Morning News. That traffic was largely thanks to American Airlines, which operated 11,109 of those flights, according to Ross Feinstein, a spokesman for AA. DFW's traffic was significantly ahead of Chicago O'Hare, ORD, the second busiest, which had 8,596 flights in May, according to OAG. Even so, the total number of flights at DFW last month was just a fraction of the traffic numbers the airport saw in May 2019. For comparison, American alone operated 24,395 departures out of DFW in May of 2019. This next article is from simplyflying.com, talking about American loads and their cash burn. At the 2020 annual shareholder meeting, CEO Doug Parker stated that the airline's load factors had increased dramatically since May. This, coupled with aggressive management, has allowed American to reduce its cash burn to $40 million per day this month. And the month-to-date load factor for June, American has seen a domestic load factor of 62%. System-wide, including international scheduled capacity, that load factor for this month is about 58% thus far. This is up from recent months. In April, the airline's load factor percent was 15%, while in May, that improved to 47%. In the first quarter earnings call, Doug Parker stated that 80% of American's flights were going out with lower than 25% load factor. That retirement of some aircraft will also ensure that American does not have any excess capacity. Most of these aircraft are older, inefficient jets like the Boeing 757 and 767s. Meanwhile, the Airbus A330-300s were a bit of an oddball with only a small number in the fleet. The cost for keeping up that fleet was not worth it for AA. This next article is from thepointsguy.com, talking about American's and Delta's fleet reactivation amidst the coronavirus. American Airlines and Delta Airlines are among carriers returning some of those jets to the sky as they slowly build back their schedules. American has reactivated 64 stored jets for its June schedule and plans to bring another 141 aircraft back from storage in July. In July, American will add more flights to account for an uptick in travel, though the carrier's overall schedule will be just 55% of what it flew in July of 2019. Delta has returned 16 aircraft to service in June on top of 30 that were previously reactivated, according to airline spokesman Morgan Durant in a June 3rd memo to pilots. The airline plans to bring another 74 planes back in July. More aircraft in the sky is a welcome sign for the travel industry. While the number of passengers on flights remains a fraction of where it stood a year ago, airlines see clear signs that people are willing to fly again, even as concerns of COVID-19 remain. Travelers are heading to places with open seats like the Rocky Mountains and to beaches in Florida and other coastal states. In addition, the reopening of casinos on the Las Vegas Strip and theme parks like Universal Orlando are attracting people tired of being cooped up at home for months. The TSA screening number hit a new post-COVID peak of 441,255 people on Sunday, June 7th. That has since been beat. However, the number remains around 17% of those screened on the same day a year ago. For June, American brought 12 Airbus A220s, 34 Boeing 737-800s, 10 Boeing 777s, and 8 Boeing 787s out of storage. American's U.S. domestic flights are operating an average 62% full this month. Delta brought back a mix of Airbus A321s and 737-900 ERs in June, on top of the 30 jets already reactivated, it told pilots. In addition, 4 new Airbus A350-900s were brought out of storage for planned maintenance. American will still have 153 mainline jets stored come July. Delta will have around 618 mainline jets and regional aircraft stored by that time, although notably it continues to fly all of its Airbus A220s in its fleet. At their peak, U.S. carriers had more than 3,000 jets in storage, according to trade group Airlines for America A4A. That airline stood at 2,882 as of June 7th. Both American and Delta were also among the first U.S. carriers to use the crisis to accelerate aircraft retirements. American has permanently removed 5 aircraft types: Airbus A330-300s, Boeing 75 and 767s, CRJ-200s, and Embraer E190s from its fleet. Delta has retired 3 types, including the McDonnell Douglas MD-88 and MD-90 aircraft, as well as their Boeing 777s that flew revenue flights for the last time on June 2nd. Alaska Airlines plans to return 20 of its stored jets to service this summer. The carrier has retired 12 jets, all 10 of its Airbus A319s, plus 2 Airbus A320s due to the pandemic. Southwest Airlines continues to monitor travel demand and will adjust the number of aircraft in its storage accordingly. Spokesperson Brian Parrish told TPG the airline has 400 aircraft in some form of storage, though only 140 737 jets are in what it considers long-term storage. All of these news articles will be in the description below for your viewing pleasure. If you like what you watch and want to see more of these types of videos, feel free to like, comment, and of course subscribe to the video to see next month's episode of Monthly Aviation News. Until then, blue skies and a tailwind.